My earliest gauge has always been the Stones, and I always wanted to end up in that band.
Behind the cigarette smoke and whiskey.
Shocking news has shook the classic rock world. A headline that made fans raise their eyebrows and curiosity spike. Did Ronnie Wood, the legendary guitarist of the Rolling Stones, really name 6 bands he absolutely hated at the age of 78? The rumor exploded across YouTube channels and social media, racking up millions of clicks, fiery comment threads, and heated debates between fans of all ages. But here's the real question. Did it actually happen, or is this just another clickbait stunt riding the wave of internet virality? As reporters, we dug deep to trace the origins of this story, to find out whether Ronnie truly said those words or if someone's feeding the algorithm with made-up drama. Because we're not talking about just any musician here. Ronnie Wood is a rock icon, a living legend, a man who's witnessed the rise and fall of rock music from the inside. So if he really dropped names and voiced hatred, it would send shockwaves through the entire music community. But hold on, before we fall into the trap of internet hysteria, let's first understand who Ronnie Wood is today. Why would a few sharp words from him at this age still spark a digital firestorm like a sudden tsunami? At 78 years old, Ronnie Wood stands not just as a guitarist, but as a symbol of rock and roll survival. From the wild chaos of the Faces to the explosive longevity of the Rolling Stones, Ronnie has played it all, lived it all, and most importantly, survived it all. He's outlived addictions, buried friends, and seen music morph through the decades. While many of his peers have faded into memory, Ronnie keeps going. Painting, performing, even raising young twins with his wife Sally as if time had politely skipped him. His face, etched with the map of decades, remains instantly recognizable, and his voice, raspy but full of stories, still carries weight in the music world. So when someone like Ronnie allegedly says something controversial, like calling out bands he hated the most, the world listens. Not because it's scandalous, but because it's him. He's seen legends rise and fall. He's shared stages with Hendrix and Jagger, and he's never been known to sugarcoat his opinions, which is what makes this whole situation so electrifying. If the claim is true, it's a thunderbolt from one of rock's last titans. But if it's false, it could be one of the most viral cases of misattribution the internet has spun lately. And that brings us to the next crucial question: where exactly did this claim come from? The wildfire started with a title, bold, shocking, and tailor-made for viral frenzy. At 78, Ronnie would name 6 bands he hated the most. No link to a formal interview, no direct quote. Just the kind of headline that demands a click before reason catches up. It first appeared across a handful of small entertainment YouTube channels, most of them known for speculative or loosely sourced celebrity gossip. Within hours, the title spread like audio gasoline, echoed by fan pages, meme accounts, and pop culture aggregators who didn't bother asking where the claim came from. And that's the first red flag. No major publication, not Rolling Stone, not NME, not even the tabloids reported on any such confession from Ronnie. Not even a blurry podcast excerpt or a throwaway quote taken out of context. Just silence from the credible press. That silence, ironically, only made the rumor louder. Comment sections erupted with guesses. Reddit threads popped up with leaked lists and fan theories. But no one, not a single user, could point to a real interview, date, or source. The origin of the quote was a mirage, a phantom born from internet hunger for drama. And yet the rumor kept growing. Because deep down, audiences love to believe that even rock legends carry grudges. But before we write off completely, we need to ask, what has Ronnie Wood actually said about bands, artists, or the state of music? Over the years, Ronnie Wood has never been shy about speaking his mind, but when it comes to music, he's more of a realist than hater. In various interviews, especially in his later years, Ronnie has made critical comments about the direction of modern music. He's lamented how much the industry relies on image over substance, algorithms over artistry, and how today's pop stars often lack the grit and soul that defined his generation. But hey, that's not his style, at least not publicly. In a 2021 interview, he referred to some modern music as just noise, but stopped short of naming names. In another chat with a UK outlet, he joked that some pop bands today wouldn't last one Stones tour, but again, no specific targets. Even when asked about bands from the past he didn't like, Ronnie usually dodged with humor or redirected the conversation toward musicians he admired. If anything, he's praised more than he's criticized, often tipping his hat to the blues legends, punk rebels, and jazz greats that shaped him. So far, there's no known audio, print, or video clip where Ronnie lists, let alone rants about 6 bands he despises. His documented quotes reflect more frustration with trends and nostalgia for musical authenticity than any burning contempt for specific artists. Which leads us to a pressing mystery. If Ronnie didn't say it, then who did? Or better yet, did anyone say it at all? We search high and low, archives, interviews, podcasts, magazine excerpts, even bootleg fan recordings, but the infamous quote from Ronnie Wood listing the 6 bands he hated the most simply doesn't exist. Not in Rolling Stone magazine, not in any episode of Howard Stern, not in The Guardian, not even buried in an old NME column from the 90s. The supposed interview? It's like chasing smoke. A ghost source that no one can verify. Strangely, most of the videos spreading the rumor don't even try. They flash dramatic thumbnails of Ronnie pointing fingers or looking angry with clickbait captions and generic voiceovers, but offer 0 citation, 0 proof. In journalistic terms, that's a red siren. Even Ronnie's official channels, his social media, publicist statements, or band communications have never addressed this topic. No denial. But more importantly, no confirmation. If a rock legend like Ronnie Wood had actually torched 6 bands by name, it would have dominated headlines worldwide. Legacy publications would have dissected it. Fans would have reacted, and the bands mentioned would have likely clapped back. Yet, silence. Which raises a sobering possibility. This entire scandal may be one of the internet's latest Frankenstein creations, stitched together by algorithmic greed, boosted by curiosity, and swallowed by the public without question. But if Ronnie didn't say it, why do so many fans believe he did? That's where things get even more interesting. Despite the absence of any credible quote, fans across forums, comment sections, and Reddit threads seem convinced that Ronnie Wood must have said it, or at least meant it. Some swear they remember hearing it in an old interview they can't quite locate. Others claim he probably said it off the record. Then there are those who simply fill in the blanks themselves, suggesting names of bands they think Ronnie would despise. Coldplay, Nickelback, Imagine Dragons. These names pop up frequently, often based more on meme culture than any real beef. Some even throw in U2, citing supposed tension between the Stones and Bono over the years. But none of it is grounded in verified statements. It's all speculation. And yet, the narrative keeps growing, because it fits an archetype that the internet loves, the aging rock star, grumbling about the modern world, torching the lesser bands that came after. It's a story that practically writes itself. The idea of Ronnie Wood, cigarette in hand, rattling off bands he loathes just feels believable, even if it never happened. And that's what makes it powerful. Fan culture today isn't just about what's true. It's about what feels true. And when you combine nostalgia, idol worship, and a splash of snark, it's easy to believe a rock legend said something spicy, even if no mic ever caught it. But before we let the fan fiction run wild, let's ask the next hard question. Has Ronnie ever had real musical feuds or public clashes with other artists? Because if so, that might be where this whole thing really started. If you're digging for dirt in Ronnie Wood's past, you won't find the kind of explosive public feuds that define some other rock stars. But that doesn't mean he's been a saint in the music scene either. Ronnie's life has been messy, colorful, and at times chaotic. But when it comes to throwing shade at other bands, he's usually taken the high road, or at least the cheeky road. One of the rare moments that came close to a clash was during a lighthearted jab at Led Zeppelin back in the day. Ronnie once joked that Zeppelin was just blues turned up to 11, and that Jimmy Page borrowed a few things without returning them. But even then, it was delivered with a smirk, not malice. In his autobiography, Ronnie mentioned being unimpressed by some of the posh prog rock bands of the 70s, hinting that technical skill didn't always mean musical soul, but again, no names dropped. There was also a brief moment of tension in the early 80s when the Stones were competing with newer British acts for chart dominance. Ronnie reportedly found it amusing how some synth-pop bands dressed like mannequins from Mars, but that's hardly a disparate recording in music history. The truth? Ronnie Wood hasn't really gone on record trashing specific bands, at least not in the scorched earth fashion the 6 bands he hated, rumor suggests. He might throw playful shade, raise an eyebrow, or drop a cryptic line, but full-on hate? It's just not his style. Which leads us to the bigger question. Why do headlines like these, full of alleged hatred, go viral faster than real stories ever could? There's a reason why headlines dripping with negativity, especially those involving hate, Feuds or exposed secrets tend to skyrocket in clicks, controversy sells. In the digital age, outrage equals currency, and the mere suggestion that a rock legend like Ronnie Wood trashed 6 bands becomes clickbait gold. Why? Because audiences are wired to react more strongly to negativity than praise. Tell someone Ronnie admired 6 bands? Yawn. But tell them he hated 6? Boom. Instant dopamine spike. The algorithm picks it up, engagement surges, and suddenly a baseless rumor becomes gospel truth. This isn't just a Ronnie Wood problem, it's a broader phenomenon in music journalism. Whether it's Kanye allegedly dissing Taylor Swift again or Liam Gallagher supposedly throwing shade at his brother Noel, negative headlines spread like wildfire. Even when later debunked, the correction rarely travels as far. It's emotional bait, tapping into tribalism among fans, nostalgia among older audiences, and the thrill of imagined backstage drama. In Ronnie's case, the rumor hits all the right buttons: a beloved icon, a mysterious quote, and an implied takedown of modern music culture. The internet doesn't need evidence, it just needs a compelling headline and a thumbnail of Ronnie looking grumpy. And just like that, fiction becomes fact, unless someone stops to actually question the source. Which brings us to the final ripple in this saga. What happens when a legacy artist's reputation is hijacked by rumors, and how does it shape how we remember them? For artists like Ronnie Wood, legends with decades of music, stories, and scars behind them, legacy is everything. And in today's hyper-connected world, that legacy is no longer shaped solely by albums or interviews, but by memes, misquotes, and viral rumors that spread faster than truth can catch up. One false headline, one AI-generated quote, or one clickbait video can rewrite public perception in a matter of hours. For younger fans unfamiliar with Ronnie's real voice or values, the idea that he hated 6 bands might become the most memorable thing they associate with him. Not his work with the Stones, not his blues influence, not his paintings or recovery journey, just a rumor. That's the tragedy of modern fame in the internet age. Even a rock god isn't safe from being turned into a headline caricature. And the older the icon, the more likely the narrative slips out of their control. Ronnie, who spent a lifetime evolving from a rebellious guitarist to a wise elder of rock, now finds himself, possibly unknowingly, at the center of a drama he never authored. He hasn't even commented on it. Maybe he hasn't seen it. Maybe he doesn't care. Or maybe he knows better than to feed the machine. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Today's rumors, no matter how baseless, stick. They reshape how new generations view old legends. And unless we keep digging for facts, questioning viral claims, and respecting legacy, the internet might end up writing Ronnie's story without Ronnie. So after all the digging, verifying, and chasing shadows, what's the final verdict? Did Ronnie Wood really sit down, roll up his sleeves, and list out 6 bands he hated the most? The answer, based on every available source and shred of evidence, is a firm no. There's no interview, no transcript, no audio bite, no article, nothing to back up the claim that sparked millions of views and heated online debates. What we're left with is a case study in internet myth-making, a powerful combination of curiosity, algorithm manipulation, and the public's appetite for scandal. Somewhere along the line, someone realized that putting Ronnie Wood and the word hate in the same headline would be explosive. And they weren't wrong. The clicks came pouring in. But truth? That got left behind in the dust. This isn't just about Ronnie. It's about how fast fiction spreads in a digital world hungry for drama. It's about how a legendary musician's name can be co-opted into a narrative he never approved. And it's a reminder to all of us, fans, readers, and creators, to look closer before we believe. Because if we're not careful, we stop honoring icons like Ronnie Wood for their truth and start remembering them for lies they never told. So next time you see a headline that screams shocking revelation or rock star exposes hated bands, take a moment, ask for the source, trace the facts, and maybe, just maybe, the truth won't get buried under the noise. Thank you for watching, and remember, find other interesting videos in our channel's playlist.